Decreasing the likelihood that those with real aptitude for such music will be performing it. Sorry, there was some glitch in Zoom. Fewer and fewer musicians are studying classical music, decreasing the likelihood that those with real aptitude for such music will be performing it. So what's decreasing the likelihood? The fact that fewer and fewer musicians are studying music. All right, so there is a relationship between these two portions. All right. Audiences who hear these performances. What performances? The performances made by the people who are studying music. Audiences who hear these performances will not appreciate classical music's greatness. Okay, these performances, again, performances by these musicians who are perhaps don't have real aptitude. Audiences who hear these performances will not appreciate music's greatness. Okay, and will thus decamp to other genres. And will thus. So why is this thus here? What's the relation here? So since audiences who hear will not be able to appreciate, as a consequence, they will decamp, they will move to other genres. Okay, that makes sense. So to maintain classical music's current meager popularity, so it's not highly popular, it appears. It has meager popularity. But the author is saying to maintain that current level, whatever that level may be, to maintain that level, we must encourage more young musicians to enter the field. Okay? In order to maintain this level, we must do something. We must. Strong word there. We must encourage more young musicians to enter the field. Okay? The passage makes sense. At this stage, what we ask you guys to do is just to create a gist of the passage, the story of the passage overall, what's going on, is it an argument? If so, what are they trying to convince us of and what basis? So we'll look at the gist of the passage and then we'll get into, are there any gaps in the passage? So the gist first. What's going on here? Overall, the music critic is saying we must encourage more young musicians to enter classical music in order to maintain the popularity, albeit meager popularity, but in order to maintain that popularity, we must encourage more musicians to enter this field. All right. Why must we do that? Why is the author saying this? On what basis? So this is the main point he's making, right? We must encourage in order to maintain popularity. And why is that the case? Well, that's what the rest of the passage is about. So they start off with, oh, fewer and fewer musicians are studying classical music. Okay, then what? Oh, if fewer and fewer musicians study, that will lead to a lower chance of people with real aptitude performing. Right? That's the kind of relation that the author seems to be establishing. There'll be a lower chance of people with real aptitude performing if fewer musicians are studying classical music. Okay? And then if audiences hear performances by these people, they will not appreciate the greatness of classical music. And then as a consequence, these audiences will move to other genres. Right? So this is kind of the gist of the passage. Basically, I've just reframe the passage in a way I understand as to what's being said on what basis. Overall, I've created a logical flow out of the passage. Now, what I have on top is something which I call the main point of the argument. And then these points at the bottom are the reason, they are the why. And then we call them the basis. This is the basis on the base of which the main point is being made. On the base of which the main point is being made. Now let's talk about gaps. What are gaps? Hmm? So overall, at this point, we recommend that even before you head into the answer choices, in fact, let alone the answer choices, even the question stem, while you're reading and understanding the passage itself, and we understand that it's an argument, let's try to understand, is it completely logical? Or are there any logical gaps in what's being said? So let's try to understand that. Hmm? For example, they initially say fewer musicians are studying classical music. And then that would lead to lower chances of people with real aptitude performing. Hmm. Just because fewer musicians are studying classical music, is it necessary that there'll be a lower chance of people with real aptitude performing? Is it not possible that the people who've stopped studying classical music are musicians who just don't have any potential? And the musicians who do have potential are still studying? The ones who've left, who are not studying, who are not joining classical music anymore, are people who just don't have the potential? I'll ask you guys to please refrain from using the chat, right? It won't be fun otherwise. Thanks. Hmm. Okay, so that's one gap we can see, right? Just because there are fewer and fewer musicians who are studying classical music, it's not necessary that that would decrease the likelihood that people will, with real aptitude, will perform. All right, that's one thing we notice. Chalo, let's assume that fewer musicians does mean that overall now uh, there'll be less chance of people with real aptitude performing. Fine. Let's even take that for granted. Let's assume that this is not the case, that people, it's only the people with zero potential who are not performing. Then is everything else logical? Let's think about that. Hmm? Can't audiences appreciate greatness through or despite mediocre music, mediocre performances? So what have we been told? Audiences who hear these performances will not appreciate greatness of classical music. Oh, really? Right? Can't they appreciate the greatness of classical music after listening to someone who's not that great? Maybe they appreciate the effort. Maybe they're like, yeah, there is potential, and they appreciate the greatness of classical music despite that, right? So is it necessary that just because they're listening to someone who might not be great, they will they cannot appreciate the greatness of classical music? That doesn't seem so. Not just that, not just that. Audiences who hear these performances will not appreciate greatness of classical music overall. The author is not saying that audiences who hear these performances will not appreciate the greatness of live performances. They're saying these people will just not appreciate the greatness of classical music. Are there no other ways of appreciating greatness of classical music? Is the only way to appreciate the greatness of classical music through listening to live performances? Can't audiences appreciate classical music through other sources of classical music? Right? So that's another gap that we understand. That's not the only way to appreciate classical greatness of classical music. It doesn't seem so. Chalo, मान भी लेते हैं. Let's assume that this is the only way to appreciate the greatness. Then is it a certainty that audiences will move to other genres? Hmm? Even if, let's say, audiences don't appreciate the greatness of classical music, is that enough to say they'll move to other genres? I, for example, don't appreciate the greatness of hip hop. That doesn't mean I can't listen to Honey Singh and I'll move on to other genres, right? Appreciating greatness is one thing. Maybe audiences will continue to listen to classical music casually. They might not appreciate the greatness of it all. They might still listen to it once in a while. Also, what's to say that other genres are better? Maybe other genres are even worse. So they might still continue to listening to classical music, right? So this also we understand. Just because even if we assume that they can't appreciate the greatness, then is it a certainty that they'll move over to other genres? Not necessarily, right? Maybe other genres are worse. Maybe they are casual listeners. They continue listening to classical music casually. They don't necessarily have to really appreciate the greatness of music to listen to the music. Okay. Even beyond this, even if, let's say, uh, these audiences will move over, right? If all this happens, then we're not done yet. The author actually concludes we must encourage more musicians to enter classical music. We must encourage to maintain the popularity. Is that the only way to maintain popularity? Oh, we must do this. Can't we maintain popularity through some other way? Maybe classical music has a committee, a society which does marketing, which publishes good playlists on Spotify or whatever, right? Is this the only way to maintain the popularity of classical music? To encourage more young musicians to join? That's another question that comes to mind. That's another gap that we can see in the argument. Chalo, even let's assume that we must encourage. Why must we encourage young musicians? Can't we encourage old musicians also to enter classical music? Why do they have to be young only? Right? So this way we can see that there are so many gaps in the argument. And this is even before we got into even reading what the question is. This is while we are understanding the passage itself. We looked at the passage, we went through the passage, we understood the relation between various sentences, we understood what was going on, we understood that it was an argument in which the music critic was trying to conclude something, he was trying to convince us of something. What was the main point? The main point was we must encourage more young musicians to enter classical music to maintain the popularity of classical music. Okay. On what basis was the music critic making this main point? And then that's where the basis comes in, right? Fewer musicians will decreasing the likelihood of those with real aptitude performing, and then audiences who hear will not appreciate and will therefore move to other genres. And that's why we must encourage more young musicians. That's the logical flow. Once we understood this, then we, even before reading the question, then we thought about, are there any gaps in the argument? In other words, is it a completely logical argument or are there any logical gaps? And then we realized that there are so many logical gaps. These are a few that I could identify. There could still be more that maybe even I didn't identify. Right? Let me ask at this point before I carry on. Are things making sense so far? Did you guys understand the steps that I took to understand what's the argument about and what are the gaps? Okay. Thanks for that. Unfortunately, the name I see is Marinar. All right. So thanks. And it seems that it's making sense to most of you, at least everyone who's replying. Is it possible? I'm sorry, I'm missing that question. I'll get into that later. Now, one thing I noticed, a couple of you mentioned, oh, it's quite time consuming. Sure, it might be initially. It might be initially, but, and this is what Chiranjeev and I are both proponents of, that let's develop the skills that are needed to answer these GMAT questions. And with time, as we develop these skills, our speed will automatically improve. So I'll not get into that part of it too much right now. Let me continue with the question. For now, let me just mention, do not worry about time. Let's just focus on understanding for now, right? Let's just focus only on understanding and not worry about other things. All right. Cool. Let's carry on then, right? So we've understood what's going on in the passage. We've understood the story. We've understood the gaps. Let's look at the question now. Which of the following, if true, most weakens the critic's reasoning? All right. Which of the following, if true? Okay. So we'll look at the statements, the answer choices, and then we check which one of those weakens the reasoning provided above. Let me mention one thing before I carry on. We notice in the passage, there are a lot of predictions being made. Audiences who hear these performances will not appreciate and will thus decamp. Predictions, these are predictions. And there is no guarantee behind predictions. There's no certainty that those things will happen. Even if I tell you we will meet tomorrow at this time, I am assuming that nothing bad will happen. My internet will continue to work. My computer will continue to work. I will not have a tree hit my head, right? There are a lot of inbuilt assumptions, or in other words, a lot of inbuilt gaps. So these aren't facts. Everything is being said on the basis of something before. And that's why we are able to identify these gaps. All right, let's continue with the question. Which of the following, if true, most weakens the music critic's reasoning? At this point, what we usually ask you to do is to try and predict an answer. Since this question is asking us to weaken the reasoning, and we've already thought of so many gaps, we've already thought of so many ways in which the argument can be weakened. So that step is already done for us. All right, since that step is already done, let's move on. Musicians who choose to study classical music do so because they believe they have an aptitude for the music. Okay? Musicians who choose to study do so because they believe they have an aptitude for the music. So this answer choice is giving us a reason for why musicians get into classical music in the first place, right? This answer choice is wrong. This answer choice is wrong because this is telling us about the reason why musicians might choose to study classical music. But that's irrelevant to the argument that the music critic is making, right? The music critic is making an argument about why should we or how to maintain the current popularity. And he's talking about, oh, we must do this. We must encourage young musicians in order to maintain popularity, right? And he's given reasons why there might be fewer musicians joining or why musicians join in the first place. That doesn't help us weaken the argument at all. So answer choice A is wrong. Answer choice B, classical music's current meager popularity is attributable to the profusion of other genres of music available to listeners. Let's make sure we understood the sentence first. Classical music's current popularity, albeit meager popularity, this popularity is attributable to profusion, some fusion of other genres of music available to listeners. Okay, that is what is the reason for the current popularity. All right, fine. Again, do we care about what is the reason for the current popularity, or do we care about how to maintain current popularity? Right, whatever that reason may be. And in order to maintain, must we encourage? That's the argument that we are trying to weaken. This answer choice is also wrong, right? Why the current popularity is meager? What is this popularity attributable to? That doesn't help us weaken the argument at all. Okay, let's look at the next one. Most people who appreciate classical music come to do so through old recordings rather than live performances. Most people who appreciate classical music come to do so through old recordings. Okay, let's remember what was the argument about. The argument was saying that in order to maintain classical music's popularity, we must encourage. Why is that? Oh, because fewer musicians are studying, and then the chances of performing, real people with real aptitude performing are lower. And so audiences who hear will not appreciate and they'll move out. Now we are finding out that most people who appreciate classical music appreciate it through old recordings. Oh, okay. So it's not even like they are getting extremely influenced by the live performances, right? The way they are appreciating classical music is through old recordings, most of them anyway, right? So even if, let's say, the live performances are not that great, even then they will continue to appreciate classical music. And so in order to maintain the current popularity, must we encourage young musicians? It doesn't seem as logical anymore after we have answer choice C given to us, right? If we are told, if we are given that most people who appreciate classical music come to do so through old recordings rather than live performances, then basically the entire argument falls flat, because the entire argument is built on how live performances by these people who probably don't have real aptitude would lead to audiences moving to other genres. But now we find out that maybe live performances are not that important, really. So this happens to be the correct answer, right? Quality of performances, live performances, loses importance. That's not very important anymore. Oh, it's the recordings through which most people are appreciating music. So these people can still listen to old recordings and then continue to appreciate greatness, right? So the entire reasoning falls flat here. This one does weaken the argument. It happens to be the correct answer. Let me go through all answer choices. Please hold on to your questions till then. I will take up your questions at that point, right? So just be patient and listen to the explanation at this point. Focus on that. All right, let's look at the fourth answer choice. It is possible to enjoy the music in a particular genre, even when it is performed by musicians who are not ideally suited for that genre. It is possible to enjoy the music even when it is performed by musicians who are not suited. Okay, it is possible to enjoy the music. Okay, that's fine. We are not saying, the author is not saying, boss, it is not even possible to enjoy classical music if it's performed by mediocre musicians. It's about appreciating the greatness of classical music, right? Enjoyment and appreciating the greatness of classical music. Same thing. Maybe I enjoy listening to Honey Singh doesn't mean I have to appreciate the greatness of whatever genre he's from, right? Same thing here. So the author is never saying it's not even possible to enjoy live performances or anything like that. And that's why this answer choice is wrong also, right? Author is talking about appreciating the greatness of classical music. He doesn't claim that enjoyment isn't even possible. So sure, it is possible to enjoy the music in a particular genre, which could include classical music for sure. That's fine. But so what, right? Even this answer choice has no impact. So notice on every incorrect answer choice so far, I have this phrase at the end called no impact. Now, what is this all about? When we are answering a CR question, we are not just answering for the sake of getting it correct, right? There's a difference between match practice and nets practice. Match practice, when we are practicing for a match, our objective is to get runs. Nets practice, our objective is to hit a proper stroke, which will help us get runs in the match, right? Same thing here. While we are practicing questions, are we practicing the way we would attempt it in the exam, or are we practicing it to learn? And there's a big difference there. And this is a part of that difference. If we are practicing to learn and improve, then let's understand, fine, even if we decide it's not the correct answer, let's figure out what impact does it have. Is it strengthening? Is it Does it have any impact at all? And as it turns out, all three incorrect answer choices so far have no impact, right? That's anyway something which will help us evaluate answer choices on the exam also. And plus, it's a great tool to build our capability, our ability in critical reasoning. It doesn't weaken, not just that, it has no impact. In other words, it doesn't strengthen either. All right, let's look at the last one now. The continued popularity of a given genre of music depends in part on the audiences being able to understand why. The continued popularity depends in part on the audiences being able to understand why that genre attained its original popularity. Okay. So popularity depends partly on this reason. Okay. The author is never saying popularity depends only on this thing, right? The author is saying in order to maintain, we must do this. Doesn't mean that that's the only thing, right? The author does not claim that appreciating greatness is the only necessary requirement for maintaining current popularity. There could be other requirements also. Okay. So it's absolutely fine if the current continued popularity depends in part on this other thing as well. That's fine. As far as the argument is concerned, it stays where it is. There's no impact on the argument. This answer choice doesn't weaken the reasoning presented by the author, right? The music critic can very well say, yeah, I never said that this is the only reason, this is the only necessary requirement. There could very well be other requirements also. So what, right? So this one also does not weaken the argument. It actually has no impact. And therefore, as far as this question is concerned, the correct answer is C. Now, let me mention one thing, that a question that some of you might have. The answer choice C has the word most in it. Most people who appreciate come to do so. Now, the two things that let's be very clear about. First is the meaning of the word weaken itself. The word weaken is not the same as destroy. If we are asked to weaken a structure, that doesn't mean that it should be completely eradicated and destroyed. It just means it should become weaker than it was before. And that's exactly what the question is asking us for here as well. Which one of the following most weakens the reasoning, not destroys the reasoning? So even if we have been able to weaken the reasoning compared with before, we are good to go. That's one thing. Also, the question says that the current popularity is meager. It's a very small level of popularity. And then on top of that, if you find out most people, most by definition means more than half. If we find out that more than half people appreciate classical music through old recordings, then maybe we'll be able to maintain those that meager popularity, even if live performances were not really appreciated by the audiences, right? So this answer choice certainly weakens the argument. There's no doubt about that. All right. I'll put it open to questions now. First question, did the explanation and the process make sense? Right? And then if you have any specific questions, we will get into those as well. Okay. All right. So let me answer a couple of generic questions, and then I'll get into questions specific to this one, right? Because it's more important that you conceptually understand how to handle a CR question. And then if there's something left out on this question also, we'll for sure take that. I will get into options D and E again, that's noted. Someone asked how to spot the gaps. So one way to think about gaps is to understand that when something is being said on the basis of something else. So for example, if I look at just the first part, fewer and fewer musicians are studying classical music, comma, decreasing, it's a verb ing, comma, decreasing the likelihood that those with real aptitude will be performing it. So the first half is the basis for saying the second half. Since fewer and fewer musicians are studying classical music, as a consequence, the likelihood will decrease. And if that's the relation here, then we can question, right? If the second half is being said on the basis of the first half, then we can question, really? Just because fewer and fewer musicians are studying, is it a certainty that the likelihood will decrease? And then we'll get an answer in our mind. No, it's not a certainty, man. It's not a certainty. Maybe the musicians who are reducing are anyway the musicians who didn't have any potential, and the good ones are still continuing. Right. So the first question we ask is, if something is being said on the basis of something else, is it a certainty? Is it guaranteed? And then automatically an answer will come, no, it's not guaranteed. And this is the reason why. Right? And we can do the same thing on the next one also. Audiences who hear these performances will not appreciate music's greatness and will decamp to other genres. Again, just because audiences doesn't appreciate the greatness, is it a certainty that they'll decamp to other genres? And then, no, it's not necessary. Maybe they'll continue to listening despite not appreciating greatness. And that's where my Honey Singh example came from, right? That's how we identify gaps. Understand when something is being said on the basis of something. Then we question, does that basis guarantee this thing? Is it confirmed? Is it guaranteed? If not, why not? That's what the gap is. So someone asked, in weaken questions, can we weaken the premise the argument is built on? Rachit. No, Rachit, we're not weakening any premise. We're not weakening any premise. We never questioned whether fewer and fewer musicians are studying classical music or not, right? We're questioning predictions and we're questioning things that are based on some facts. We are never questioning facts themselves. We never question facts, right? And facts we can't question. We can't question whether the number of musicians is actually decreasing or not. That's a fact, that's given, right? But then everything else is either a prediction or something that the music critic is saying on the basis of some facts. So those things we can question. What to do when we don't know the meaning of a word like meager? Just replace it with something, Sanket, right? Try to gauge the context from the passage if you can. Try to gauge the context if it's possible. If not, just replace it with something and just continue, right? That's the best we can do. And apart from that, once you're done with the question in practice, go to a dictionary, learn the meaning. Himanshu is saying, I couldn't think of as many gaps as you did. I could only spot a few. So I don't see a question there, Himanshu, but that's fine, right? That's fine. It comes with practice. It comes with developing this ability. It doesn't come overnight. It doesn't come on the first day itself. And plus I spent some time on this question also, right? It's not like I did all this within 2 minutes, to be very frank, right? So it takes time. That's okay. But are we developing this skill? That's the point. While finding gaps, is it possible that only people with not so great aptitude are performing? Hence, the audience will not appreciate greatness? See, Karan, I said that, right? So let's say the performance is mediocre. Then is that enough to say that people will not appreciate greatness? Maybe they still appreciate greatness. All right, there are quite a few questions. I might have missed a few. I will take up options D and E. Let me take up options D and E, right? Because that was something which came up a couple of times. And then let's see where we stand. All right. Option D. It is possible to enjoy the music in a particular genre even when it is performed by musicians who are not ideally suited for that genre. So what is this option telling us? This option is telling us that enjoyment is possible. Enjoying listening to music is possible even when the performer is not ideally suited for that genre, right? So first we can question what is this entire thing about not ideally suited. Chalo, मान लेते हैं not ideally suited is the same as don't have the aptitude, that real aptitude thing. Fine. Even if we take that, right? All this answer choice is saying is it is possible to enjoy music. Think about it. The music critic can straight away say, yeah, man, of course. I never said you can't even enjoy. I said that you can't appreciate the greatness of classical music. And that will make you move, right? I never said that you can't enjoy. Enjoyment was never a point that the critic raised. His point was appreciating the greatness. That's a different thing, right? Appreciating the greatness of hip hop versus enjoying. I keep coming back to that, enjoying Honey Singh. Same thing. The music critic never said that it's not even possible to enjoy uh, a live performance by a mediocre artist or something like that, right? So this does not weaken the reasoning. Those of you who are unclear about D, is it clear now? Few of you mentioned they weren't sure about option D. Okay. All right, let's look at option E now. The continued popularity of a given genre of music depends in part on the audiences being able to understand why that genre attained its original popularity. So let's make sure we understood the statement. The continued popularity of a given genre. Continued popularity depends partly, in part, on the audiences being able to understand why the genre attained popularity. Right? One reason for why a genre continues to have popularity is the audience's understanding where the popularity came from in the first place. ठीक है, fine, that's okay. Overall, basically they're giving us another reason for what popularity depends on. Continued popularity depends in part on something, some new thing, right? Okay, continued popularity depends in part on some new thing. Then what? The author said in order to maintain current popularity, we must do this. Doesn't mean this is the only thing that is necessary. There could be other factors also, but he believes this is the way to improve or to maintain. Right? The author doesn't claim that appreciating greatness is the only necessary requirement for maintaining popularity. There could be other factors very well also. That's fine. That doesn't help us weaken the argument. And the author said that the only way this can happen and this is it, nothing else, then we would have discussed, then we would have thought about it. Those of you who mentioned E, is it clearer now than it was before? All right. Akshay. A lot of familiar names. All right. Where do we stand now? I'm confused about option A. So option A gives us a reason for why musicians choose to study classical music. They choose to study classical music because they believe they have an aptitude. Fine. This is the reason for why they study this music, right? Fine. Reason for why maybe more or fewer people join classical music. That's okay. Overall, still, the argument is about to maintain popularity, we must do this, right? And overall, how fewer is leading to decreasing likelihood and audiences will not appreciate and they will leave. Why they are joining or not joining, that doesn't help us weaken the argument at all. That is immaterial to the argument that the critic presents. Some patience, right? We are 184 strong. That's a big number. Obviously, there'll be some people to whom it's entirely clear, some people to whom it's not yet. So to whom it is clear, I'll ask you to be just a little bit more patient, right? If we all move on together, I think it'll be more enjoyable for everyone then. Anyway, we will move on shortly. Okay. All right. Let's recap overall the process. What did we do? We read the passage. How did we read the passage? We read it part by part. We didn't read start to finish in one go and then wonder, oh, what have I just read? Let me go back and read again. No. We read one part, took a pause, make sure we understood it, then moved on. Next part, made sure we understood it. Even before moving on, we asked, how does this relate with whatever I've read so far? How does this relate to whatever I've read so far? We established that relation, right? We made those connections and then moved on. Next part, what is it saying? How does it relate? Next part, what is it saying? How does it relate? I keep using this word part because part need not necessarily be a complete sentence, right? You would have noticed many times I broke up a sentence also into multiple parts. It's about reading one idea at a time, making sure we've consumed the idea, we've understood the idea, and we then move on. If you're reading it like a Sunday newspaper where we read from the first word till the last word in one go, we might realize, and many times realize, that we haven't understood a single thing that's being said. And that will cause rereading multiple times. A part of skill building that we talk about is instead of rereading, read slowly, read part by part, read once, but make sure you've understood it well. That's definitely much better than rereading multiple times and still not being sure of what's being said. Right? Read once, make sure you're understanding what's going on. And then if we realize it's an argument, if the author is making a conclusion on the basis of something, then we get into gaps, which I discussed earlier also. I'll not repeat that whole thing. Once we've identified gaps, depending on what the question's asking for. This one happened to be a weaken question. So based on gaps, we already knew ways in which we can weaken. And in fact, you would have realized option C was one of the gaps that we had thought of initially also. Similarly, if it's a strengthened question, these gaps, basically bridging these gaps, filling these gaps, or at least one of those gaps will help us strengthen. And this will help us in all argument family questions. Let me take up last one or two questions and then we'll move on to the next one. Fewer and fewer, this statement is a fact and can't be questioned, but the statement decreasing is questioned. Why should this be the case when both are part of the premise? What do you mean by part of the premise, Manav? Is there a signifier that's telling us that, oh, this portion is a premise and this portion is not? There's no such thing, right? These are all things that we understand on the basis of reading the passage precisely and making sure we understand what's being said, how are things getting connected, right? Over here, it is clear that the decreasing the likelihood is a consequence of what's being said before, right? The author is making that consequence. We're not given as a fact, oh, this is what always happens, which has been proven by something. There's no such thing here. Similarly, if you look at the next sentence, it will become even more clear, Manav. Audiences who hear these performances will not appreciate classical music's greatness. The music critic is saying they will not appreciate. The author is saying this. He's making a prediction. How can he be so sure that is exactly what will happen? We can very well question all these things. Chalo, I'll take up that last question about option B also. Option B also weakening since it gives a reason for meager popularity. So encouraging people will not help maintain popularity because reason for decrease is option B. The reason for decrease is not option B, Siddharth. Reason for current level is option B. That's where you're wrong, right? Reason for decrease is not, a decrease in popularity is not given. Reason for the current level is given. All right. Cool. Hope this made sense. Chiranjeev's turned on his camera already. So I will turn over things to Chiranjeev now.
Yes. Hi, guys. Good evening. Okay, so what are your takeaways from Anish's question, the question that you just did? If I may ask you, what have you taken away from that? What's the takeaway? Read it slow. Okay, that's a good takeaway. Importance of pre-thinking. Okay, identifying gaps, spotting gaps. Don't jump to answer choices immediately. Every word matters. Okay, they're pretty good takeaways. If you sort of carry these takeaways and apply these consistently, I think you're going to see a good improvement just from this single question, actually. The thing is just that you need to apply this consistently. Because once you start applying, then you may feel that, oh, it's taking a lot of time. Let's just rush. Okay, that's good. That's good. Good takeaways. Okay, so let's get into this question. I've launched the poll. Okay, can you guys see the poll now? Cool. So I'll give you 4 minutes. So no hurry, just try to apply the process, try to reason out things. Even if you want sort of more than 4 minutes, I'll be happy to give you. Just try to give your best attempt on this question. Okay, guys, I'm going to end the poll now. So if anybody wants to vote, you can just vote. This is your last chance. ठीक है. Going to end the poll now. ठीक है. So how was the question? Did you find it hard, medium, easy, lollipop? Very easy. Marinar. Tricky, medium. Easier than the previous one. Medium. Lollipop question, Vikram. Medium after Anish steps. Wow, Anish, you've done a great job already. Acha. Lollipop means just too easy. Too easy to handle. ठीक है. Let's get into the question. So we'll follow the same process. The process remains same in all argument-based questions. We'll try to go line by line. Okay. And then we'll try to understand the connections as we go through the passage. And then once we have gone through the passage, we try to identify the gaps. Okay. Then we'll critique the argument. That's what identifying gaps is. Okay. So let's get into the passage. So for years, okay, the beautiful Renaissance buildings and Palitito, okay, so for years, for many years, these buildings have been damaged by exhaust from many tour buses. Okay, these buildings have been damaged by exhaust from the many tour buses that come to the city. Okay, okay. Okay, now the question, there is a question for you guys. Given this statement, what about this? Are these buildings, can these buildings be damaged by non-tour buses as well? Given the statement, yes, no, can't say. Are these buildings damaged by exhaust from non-tour buses? No, yes, no, can't say. Okay, good. So that's good. So we can't say that. We are just given that these buildings have been damaged by exhaust from these tour buses. They could have been damaged by non-tour buses as well. Okay, that's good. Let's look at the second question also. Are these buildings damaged by exhaust from other than buses? Yes, no, can't say. Same question, same answer, right? So again, we can't say. We are just given that they are damaged by these buses. They can be damaged by anything else also. Okay. Cool. Let's get to the second question, second statement. There has been little parking space. Oh, there is not much parking space. Okay. So most buses have idled at the curb. Curb means side of the road during each stop on their tour. So since there is no parking space, so they just can't turn off the engine and just keep the bus off. So they have to sort of keep the bus on the side of the road in an idle state, and idling produces as much exhaust as driving. Okay, so there is a problem here. So there is no parking space right now. So what's happening is many of these buses are idling on the side of the road, and idling is producing as much exhaust as driving. Okay, okay, so this is the summary so far. Then we go to the third statement, right? So the first two statements are just plain facts. Now we go to the third statement. It says, the city has now provided parking that accommodates a third of the tour buses. Okay, so now we have parking. So if we have parking, probably these buses need not idle at the curb on the roadside, and probably they can park. Okay. So that's a conclusion indicator that tells us that we are arriving at the statement from the previous statement. So now since we have parking, damage to Palitito's buildings from the bus's exhaust. Okay, so damage to these buildings from the bus's exhaust will diminish significantly. Okay, so now since we are providing parking space to a third of the tour buses, so if there are 300 buses, then we are providing parking to 100 of these buses. So we, on the basis of that, we are saying, oh, now since these guys don't have to idle on the roadside, so damage to the buildings from these buses exhaust will diminish significantly. Okay, one second, guys. So the last statement in the summary I have highlighted because that is the main argument. That is the main point that the argument is trying to make and the reasoning given to make that point. The conclusion of the argument is that the damage to buildings from the bus's exhaust, this is the conclusion, will diminish substantially. And the main reasoning is that now we are providing parking space that was not there initially. Okay, so this is what the argument is. Now let's try to identify the gaps. So as I said, the gist or the main crux of the argument is that we are providing increased space for parking for two buses. And on the basis of that, we are saying, oh, now the damage will diminish substantially. Okay, so what are the gaps here? To identify the gaps, again, Anish mentioned that try to think, will providing parking space, increased parking space, guarantee that the damage to buildings from the bus's exhaust will diminish substantially? Will this guarantee this? Okay, so guys who are saying it won't guarantee, try to think of reasons. Those reasons are the gaps. Why does this part, the reasoning, does not guarantee the conclusion? That's where the gaps lie. Okay. Okay, many of you are sort of coming up with really good reasons. And I'll be talking about some of those. Cool, that's good. So the first gap is, just because we are providing space, does it necessarily mean that the buses are going to use that parking space? But if they don't use the parking space, they feel, no, I'll not pay for this. Or they just don't prefer that. Right? Is this a gap? Is this a gap? That there is a gap there, right? There is a potential that the buses may not even use the parking space. They may not just park, they may just continue idling at the curb. Right? Just by providing the parking space, we can't ensure that the damage will diminish substantially. Okay. Now let's say they use the parking space. If they use the parking space, now we are given that it's going to accommodate a third of the buses. The question is, if you park a third of the buses, will that reduce the damage significantly? Right? That's also a gap that may not necessarily lead to a significant reduction in damage or the amount of exhaust. Now, what about avenues of exhaust other than buses? If these other avenues of exhaust increase in the meantime, is this also a gap? Okay, good. So this is not a gap because the conclusion is specifically saying damage to buildings from the bus's exhaust will diminish. So we are not talking about overall damage. We are talking about damage from a specific avenue from the exhaust of the buses. The conclusion is this damage will diminish significantly or not. So even if other avenues of exhaust increase or decrease, that will have no impact on the conclusion. Does that make sense? Let's look at the fourth one. What about you provide parking space to tour buses, but what if non-tour buses increase substantially? Will that impact the argument? Okay, great. So it's also not going to impact the argument because we are talking about damage to Pelletito's building from DA. There is an article DA here which tells us we are talking about only those buses that we have already discussed in the argument. Okay, if I remove this DA from here, if I remove this, if I say, okay, damage to buildings from buses exhaust in general, in that case, this gap will be a valid gap. Right now, the conclusion is only talking about damage to the buildings from DA buses exhaust. DA buses mean the buses that we have discussed so far. Okay, so it's very, very important to read the conclusion very precisely. Okay, a lot of people argue that this is out of scope, this is whatever. So, but when I ask people, okay, who defines the scope? They're not really sure. The conclusion is the main entity that defines the scope. Okay, if I change this, if I remove this DA here, then the fourth will become relevant. Fourth will be a gap. Since it's DA here, we are only talking about the buses that we have already discussed in the argument, which are tour buses. Okay, now the next is, what if the tour buses already spend very little time idling? So essentially, they are mostly transporting passengers from one space to the other. So they are spending very little time idling. They're just sort of roaming around the city, sort of carrying passengers from one place to the other. In that case, if they are spending very little time idling, even if you provide them parking space, right? Even if you provide them parking space, let's say they are just idling for 5% of the time. Now, if you allow them parking, they'll not idle for 5% of the time. They'll just park it there. right? But your exhaust is coming down just by 5% now, because the 95% they are driving in any case, right? So if they are spending very little time idling, then you don't have a significant potential to diminish the damage. So that's another gap here. And there is another gap here, that you are introducing parking. So you provide parking space to 1/3 of the buses, and then you realize, okay, a lot more buses have started coming in because of this increased convenience. Right? That would also significantly weaken the argument. And if you have a lot of new buses coming in because of increased parking space, then the damage will rather increase rather than decrease. These gaps make sense? Now the chat is enabled. Second last gap is confusing. Fifth, different from first. In some way they are similar, but in some way they are different. The first gap is mostly about, if you offer parking space, will I even use it or not? The fifth gap is mainly about, even if I use it, how much will the exhaust go down? If I'm idling just for 5% of my time, then I can use it just for 5% of the time. Then the exhaust is just going to go down by 5%. It's not going to go down significantly. Okay. So Shruti, idling produces exhaust, but if you are idling for a very small time and I give you parking for that small time, will the exhaust come down significantly overall? Let's say you are driving for 98% of the time and idling just for 2% of the time. If I give you parking for that 2%, so probably you'll save on that 2% exhaust. The remaining 98% you are still going to drive. So your exhaust is not going to come down significantly. So Vikram, in the last statement, since it's talk about accommodates 1/3 of the tour buses, so I'll just say that tour buses refers to the buses in general, the tour buses in general. Yes, Sukriti, it will come down, but not significantly. So your conclusion that the damage will diminish significantly, that's not going to hold, right? Cool, let me go to the options now. So let's look at the first option. It says the exhaust from Pelletito's, funny name, the exhaust from Pelletito's few automobiles, so it may have its own automobiles. This exhaust is not a significant threat to Pelletito's buildings. Now, we have already discussed that the conclusion is about damage to buildings from the bus's exhaust. If it's getting damaged from other avenues, from its own automobiles also, it has no impact. Let's look at the second one. It says Pelitito's Renaissance buildings are not threatened. These buildings are not threatened by pollution other than engine exhaust. Okay. Now, whether they are threatened or not threatened by other pollution, are we concerned? We are not concerned because we are only concerned with damage from a specific avenue, whether this damage will diminish or not. If other forms of damage diminish or don't diminish, that has no impact on the argument. So again, this option also has no impact. Option C says tour buses typically spend less than 1/4 of the time. Okay, so they spend less than 25% of the time they are in Pelitito. Okay, so the time they are in Pelitito, they are spending less than 25%. Okay, not much time. Essentially saying that they are not spending much time. They are in Pelitito, transporting passengers from one side to another. Oh, so they are not spending much time transporting passengers from one side to another. Then where are they spending time? If they are not spending much time in Pelitito transporting passengers, then essentially they are just spending a lot of time idling. Oh, so if they're spending a lot of time idling, and if I give them parking space, oh, then a lot of my exhaust is getting reduced. Okay, so now I'll not have to deal with a lot of exhaust because they were spending most of the time idling. And as soon as I provide them parking space, there is a likelihood that they'll shift to the parking space, and that majority of the time that the exhaust was coming out, it's not going to come out now. So since a lot of exhaust is not there now, I can see that, okay, probably the damage is going to reduce significantly. So this option is in line with the fifth gap that we identified. This is a strengthener around the same gap, the gap we identified as the fifth gap. So option C is the answer. Let me go to D. So it says more tourists come to Pelitito by tour bus. Okay, more tourists come to Pelitito by tour bus than by any other single means of transportation. Okay, so there could be many ways of transportation from which tourists could come to Pelitito, and it's saying that coming from a tourist tour bus is the most popular means. Okay, so if it is the most popular means, then what? But how does it matter? Even if it were not the most popular means, it has no impact. And let's try to understand why it has no impact. Let's consider the given scenario that it is saying that tour buses are very popular. Right? They are more popular than any other single means of transportation. So let's say they'll, of course, since they are very popular, there will be a lot of tour buses. So we'll have a lot of pollution coming from them. So probably they are generating 100 units of pollution. Okay. And what if they are not very popular, very less popular, or not much popular? Then probably they will emit less pollution because there are not many tour buses. Now, whether the current pollution is 100 or whether the current pollution is 10, the question is whether it's going to come down significantly or not. So let's say if the current pollution goes down from 100 to 70, or it goes down from 10 to 7, in both the cases, it's going down by 30%. So whether it's more popular or it's very popular or it's not popular doesn't impact my argument that the damage will diminish significantly. Why? Because if they are more popular than others, then probably they are giving out a lot of exhaust right now, and that can also diminish significantly if you provide parking. If they are not very popular, then probably they are not emitting a lot of pollution because there are not a lot of tour buses. In that case, still the pollution can come down significantly if you provide them parking space. So either ways, doesn't really matter whether it's more more tourists come to Palo Tito by tour bus or not. It has no impact on the argument. And I'll be, of course, opening the chat to questions. So if you have questions, just hold on to them. Just listen to what I'm saying right now. I'll be answering your queries in a while. Now let's look at option E. It says some of the tour buses, some tour buses that are unable to find parking. The tour buses that are unable to find parking, they drive around Palo Tito, while their passengers are visiting a site. So while their passengers are visiting a site, these buses are not idling, these buses are driving around. And we are given that most buses idle, and now we are given in this, so we are given in the argument that most buses idle. Now this option says some buses don't idle, they drive around when they don't find parking space, which is in any case very limited right now. Now, whether they drive around or whether they idle, we know that idling produces as much exhaust as driving. Right? So even if some of them drive or many of them drive around, if we provide them parking, the exhaust is going to come down because idling is producing as much exhaust as driving. So again, option E has no impact. Okay, listen to me first, then I'll be opening chat window. Some of you may be getting restless. The thing is, it's important to understand at this stage. This was a hard question, and let me share the results. This is definitely a 700 plus level question on GMAT Club. So 46% of you got this right. No, sorry, not 46%, just 34%, just 1/3 of you got this right. Remaining 66% got this wrong. And I'm sure that out of the 1/3 people who got this right, there would be many people who would have been confused between two options and ended up choosing this, or who were not sure who got it right for wrong reasons. Okay, so now the thing to understand here is a lot of people have this misconception that options are, in CR we have close options. So if we have a strengthened question, then there could be various strengtheners in the options, but we have to go with the one that is most strengthening. That's a misconception. Okay, a lot of our students also come and say that, okay, these two options are really close. How can I really figure out? And then when we discuss, they figure out options are not close. Rather, one option doesn't even have an impact. As we saw in this question, 4 options have 0 impact. 0. You are finding them close because your reasoning is not precise. You are not understanding certain aspects of the argument. So first of all, get rid of that misconception that we have close options in a CR argument, in a CR question. We don't have close options. It's a verbal, it's not math that we can figure out, okay, 29 is different from 29.5. It's not math. If there are very close options, even experts would disagree. It's a verbal. We have to take calls. It's a gray area. So in 95% of the questions, you just have one correct option and 4 completely incorrect options, just as was the case in this. If you are finding options close, then go online, try to figure out why the incorrect options are incorrect. Just don't accept, yeah, they are supposed to be close. Okay, so with that, let me open up the chat window, and now you can ask your questions. As I said, Ashmit, it has no impact. If you think it is weakening, tell me how. Let me go one by one. So Ayush says, how can we conclude if buses are spending less time in transporting, then they're spending most time idling? It is possible that they could be doing some other task. Okay, what other possibility could be there, Ayush? It's already given that there has been little parking space, so most buses have idled at the curb during each stop on their tour. It's already given to us. So if there's most of them are idling, if you provide them if they're spending a lot of time idling, then you have a lot of potential to reduce exhaust. Sure, I'll explain E once again. So 1 plus 60. So for option E, you are saying if we say that they keep roaming and parking space will help, that's how it strengthens. Now, what if they don't keep roaming? We are already given that most buses idle at the curb, right? So parking space is going to help those idle buses also. How does it matter whether there are buses that are roaming around? In any case, roaming is producing as much exhaust as idling. So a lot of doubts around option E. Okay. So it's saying, so let's try to understand the argument. Okay, let me just disable the chat right now. Let's try to understand option E, because a lot of people are confused with option E. Let's try to understand the given argument. We are given that there is little parking space, so most buses have idled. So most buses have idled means more than 50% have idled. There is already a potential that some buses may be roaming around if they're not finding parking space. Okay. So most buses have idled, and idling produces as much exhaust as driving. So idling is sort of equally bad as driving. Okay. Now we are trying to provide parking space. Will the parking space help only the buses that are driving around, or it's going to help both kind of buses which are idling as well as which are sort of driving around finding parking space? It's going to help both kind of buses, right? It's going to help buses that are idling. It's also going to help buses that are sort of not able to find parking space and they're just roaming around. right? Now, how does it matter whether there are some buses which are roaming around? We already know that most buses are idling since they are not finding parking space. So some buses may already be driving around since there is no parking space in any case. So if you provide them parking, whether they are idling or whether they are roaming around, they are going to park now, and probably some of them will park now, and your pollution will go down, regardless of whether what is the split between idling and roaming around. Does option E make some sense now? Does option E now? The chat is, I think, let me enable the chat. Does option E make sense? All clear, Ashmit? Let's first talk about option E. Is option E clear to you guys? Okay, there are a lot of questions coming in. Okay, let me see if I can create. Okay, let's look at, I think, some other doubts here. I think he is going to continue for some time. Okay, let's look at D. That's another question that's being asked. So it says that more tourists come to Pelitito by tour bus than by any other single means of transportation. So right now it's comparing tour buses with other means of transportation and saying that tour buses are more popular or more common means of transportation. So that means probably they are causing a lot of pollution if there are more tour buses. Okay, so probably they are causing a lot of pollution. But what if they were not popular? Does it, if they were not popular, then probably they will cause less pollution right now. But whatever pollution they cause right now, the point is whether it can, this level of pollution, whatever the current level is, can it come down significantly or not? If 100 goes down to 70 or 10 goes down to 7, it's still a significant reduction in either case. Does it make sense? Option D. So it doesn't matter whether they are more common means of transportation or less common means of transportation. In either case, there is a potential, there is an equal potential to reduce the damage significantly. So knowing that there are more common, there are more common means of transportation doesn't really help us, because even if they were less common means, the argument stays as is. Yes, Marina. So yeah, so we are providing parking space for 1/3 We are not providing a fixed parking space for just, let's say, 5 buses or 10 buses. Then overall number of buses may matter. But we are providing parking space for a proportion of whatever the number of buses is. Even if we replace more with most, almost all, it will still have no impact. So Vikram, finding gaps is recommended for argument-based questions. So whether it's a strengthen question, weaken question, evaluate question, assumption questions. So in these cases, you find gaps. Of course, an inference and paradox question, there are no arguments. So you can't go about finding gaps. So Chinmay says, can we say that we are just concerned with tour buses, not other means of transportation? That's also a reason that you can say. Okay, but you need to have clarity around this level actually. But we can also say that we are talking about damage from buses, tour buses exhaust. So a comparison with other means of transportation is not going to help. Okay, I missed, I think, a few questions. And option C, if they spend less than 25% time transporting passengers, then they could be spending driving around as well instead of idling. Yes, yes, they could be, yeah, they could be spending time idling or driving around. But in any case, we are given that most buses have idled. So will increasing parking space indicate that they'll necessarily use the parking spaces? No, it doesn't necessarily indicate that they panic. It's not bridging that gap that they are going to use parking space. The gap that it bridges, that option C is helping us in, is the gap that okay, there is a potential to decrease the damage significantly. That's the gap that option C is helping us in. The Debanik, does it make sense? So it's just telling us there is a potential to decrease the damage significantly because there is a high proportion of the time that they are not transporting passengers. During that huge amount of time, they can actually park and save a lot of exhaust. Strengthener can be built around any of the gaps. Of course, I don't think there would be strengtheners that will address all the gaps. Okay, a strengthener can be built around just one of the gaps. Okay, so do you recommend taking notes? So these are general questions. Let me take them at the end, Vikram. So I've already explained option E. In option C, most buses are idling. So Vasu says in option C, if most buses are idling and if we can provide parking to only 1/3 of them, then two-thirds are still idling. That's right. But that's a different kind of gap, right? That, okay, is 1/3 enough or not? But there is another gap that, okay, even if you provide 1/3 parking to 1/3, right? Can you even reduce their exhaust? Is there a potential to reduce their exhaust significantly? What if they are most of the time transporting passengers? So even if you provide them parking, you are not going to reduce much exhaust, Vasu. So it's strengthening a different gap. What you are saying is also a gap. Yes, Manav, generally one option will address only one of the gaps. It can be built around any of the gaps, and that's going to be the same case for strengtheners, weakeners, assumptions, evaluate for every question type. Okay, any questions around no, Debaning, as I said, you won't have two options strengthening. Even if they are at strengthening different gaps, they are strengthening nonetheless. So as I said, you won't have two strengtheners. You'll just have one strengthener in a strengthened question. So whenever there are links, Rachit, whenever one statement is supporting the other, that link you can criticize. Okay, as Anish also explained, whenever there are links, something is supporting something else, then you can criticize that link. Criticism happens all along the links. Okay, guys, so we are at the end of this session. In case you guys are interested, you can look at the course that we are offering. I'll also launch the poll for feedback. If you have any generic questions, any question that you want to ask about CR, feel free to sort of ask. Anish and I are here to address your queries. So one suggestion that and one suggestion that I'll give, so people who found this question really tough, or the question that we discussed today, these are really actually tough questions. One suggestion that I'll give is that if you are struggling, let's say if you're not getting very high accuracy, let's say if you're not getting a more than 85% accuracy in medium questions, there is no point sort of trying to solve hard questions. And if you're not getting a more than 75% accuracy in hard questions, there is no point trying to solve very hard questions. It's not that you'll not be able to solve those questions. The downside is that you'll not even be able to learn from those questions. The harder the questions are, the more nuanced the reasoning is. So if you're struggling at easy medium questions, if you're not getting sort of more than 95%, 90% medium easy questions right and 85 to 90% medium questions right, doesn't make any sense to attempt hard questions. People are really sort of impressed by hard questions that, oh, let's solve a hard question, I'll get a 700. It won't help you. And people keep wasting their time trying to solve the hard questions while even they can't get medium questions consistently right. So gaps have to be found in all argument-based questions, Shruti. Does it include adaptive mock tests as well? So no, not right now. It doesn't include, the course doesn't include mock tests right now. Do you suggest reading the question type first? We suggest reading the passage first and then the question step. So various concepts, exercises are there in the articles, videos, and drills that will help you prepare for this session and get the most out of this session. Other than OG, for CR, you can use LSAT actually. So we'll be providing you a compilation of official questions, Soham. And we'll be giving you some drills. So all sessions are on a group basis, Siddharth. So all sessions are open to all the batchmates. So these rates are for the entire course, Harsh. So we try to tackle all the doubts as much as, rather we stay till the end in the session, till the last doubt is resolved at the end of the session. And if you have more doubts, you can ask in the office hours. Batch size varies, Ayush. It can be from, can't really comment on the size. So LSAT questions are also at various levels, Chirag. So not all are very hard. Ranjan, the way to read the passage is valid for RC as well, but we just don't criticize or we don't find gaps in an RC passage. That's the only thing. Okay, we read the RC passage also line by line, try to make sense, but we don't just find gaps there, because RC is a test of comprehension, not critical thinking. Is OG enough to understand the approach? Nothing is enough, Sukriti. But generally, if you're faltering on the approach or the concept part, I don't recommend starting from OG. OG is generally for practice. So there is a class schedule published on the website. You can check that out. It's not daily. It's almost daily. So probably in a week, we'll have 4 to 5 sessions. Is the amount GST included? Yes, everything is included in this amount. Sankadeep, generally I recommend CR or SE first and then RC. So the course will last for 50 days. After that, a lot of you will require more time practice. I don't think any course can sort of just take you there. Ki chalo, bat just test center. Okay, thank you, Amit. Solving. Okay, will we have all verbal session first? Yes, Harkrit. So Sanket, we'll be focused on learning, but of course we'll provide you guidance on how to go about taking marks and analyzing your performance. We'll create videos on that. No, Devanik. So if you have signed up for verbal, you can just attend verbal sessions. How much material is enough? Is only OG sufficient? Nothing is enough, Shruti. OG gives you a head start, and for verbal, OG is the most reliable material. Do you provide? So there is a clause that you can ask for a refund after 3 sessions. If you have attended 3 sessions, the first 3 sessions, and you still don't want to continue with the course, you can ask for a refund at the end of the 3rd session. And we'll refund you the entire amount. So that way you can take a trial. What is there? Sort of, we cover concepts in pre and post session articles and videos. Verbal section will end around 25 to 30 days within the course, after the course starts. Anish, do you want to say something? You're not audible.
Yeah, I realized that. No, I think you covered everything, Har. I was just thanking everyone for sticking around, being patient. First time we did something like this, Chiranjeev, us together. We had
Yeah.
some teething issues. We had some issues with their names and things like that. But hopefully overall the session went well. And obviously the email address is there on the screen also in case you guys have any questions going forward. Yeah, and we'll share the link over email also. I think the link is not here. We'll do that.
Thank you, Divanik. Thank you, Manav.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Glad you liked it. Thanks very much. Good stuff.
Guys, so so if you have any more questions, please, you can write to us on this email ID. Cool. So done, Anish?
Yeah, I think we are. Chalo, our pleasure, guys. Glad you liked the session. So take care. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.